Hello friends, it's me, and today Arcane vs LOL, League of Legends. Let's check out Film Theory, Arcane killed League of Legends, Broken Lore. From the film theorist. Together, let's go. Let's start.
Arcane might be one of the most important shows that Netflix has ever made, not because it was a huge success or a video game adaptation that was actually good, but because it's forever changed the League of Legends franchise. Yeah, the League universe will never be the same because of this show, all because Arcane just spelled doom for countless worlds within it.
Film Theory.
Hello Internet, welcome to Film Theory, the show that's gonna take you to Brazil. So, you guys excited for Arcane?
Alright, hello Internet, welcome to Film Theory.
Season 2? I know I am. When this show
Yes.
first hit our television screens a couple years ago, I was absolutely hooked by its storytelling and art style. Fun fact, we here at Theorist have actually been trying to think of a good Arcane theory since that first season, but just never had a really good excuse to sit down and craft one. But of course, that all changes today. If you don't know, Arcane is a Netflix series based on the gargantuan titan of gaming, League of Legends, developed by Riot Games. It covers the stories of sisters Vi and Jinx as they deal with the underworld of the Twin Cities, Piltover and Zaun, and the scientist-turned-politician Jace as he grapples with the destructive potential of his invention, Hextech. Along with Fallout, The Last of Us, and Cyberpunk Edgerunners, Arcane is commonly cited as one of the best video game to television adaptations out there, which surprised a lot of folks. Like, League of Legends isn't exactly known for its groundbreaking story, but Riot believed in this project, and they let it cook. Not gonna lie to you, loyal theorists, this is one of those weird episodes where it definitely feels like we're straight up just taking a toy off of Game Theory's shelf, because boy oh boy, we are definitely talking a lot about League lore today, which is why I wanted to bring on
Sorry Tom, sorry the game theorists, sorry my pet, sorry.
a special guest for today's
Tom!
episode, a summoner who knows
Tom!
League of Legends inside
Tom!
and out, the only gamer I trust in this situation, Santi.
Come on!
Hello, Wood League Santi here, coming down from the island that is top lane. And I ain't no faker, I've been playing League for about 6 years, but I've been playing MOBAs since Dota was a mode on Warcraft 3, hashtag bars.
Thanks for coming on, Santi, man. We still gotta play a match.
As long as you don't play Shaco, I'm down anytime.
How dare you?
Believe it or not, but Riot spent forever on this thing.
Hi,
They
Santi.
first had the idea for Arcane all the way back in 2015, and it took 6 years to get made, teaming up with the animation studio Fortiche. They previously made story cinematics for League, as well as music videos for bands like Imagine Dragons and the Gorillaz, and KDA, a virtual band created by Riot using their League characters.
Absolutely slaps, by the way. This series was a bit of a gamble, but it paid off. Arcane was a huge hit, and both longtime fans and newcomers alike had a real hunger for more Arcane and other League story content. Riot must have been feeling it too, because they bought a significant portion of Fortiche and announced both a second season of Arcane and multiple other projects in development.
After all, Arcane only covered the story of a few champions. There's plenty to mine here. You got the Edgelords, Yasuo and Yone. And I know I personally wouldn't mind seeing a series about Silas wrecks me in mid lane, but that would be a great story to watch.
That's actually why I wanted to talk about Arcane today. See, moving forward, this sort of show is going to be a huge deal, not only for Riot Games as a company, but for League of Legends as a universe. Sure, it's changed the way people look at League as a game, but when you look at the lore of the Runeterra universe and where Arcane fits into it, Arcane may be the most consequential thing to ever happen to the League of Legends multiverse, and some of it—
Alright, let me just start with one first. You do recognize that Arcane, the first one came out, was excellent. Perfect. Now, the second one came out, and I can say genuinely, it's good. Some might say great. In comparison to the first one, a bit lacking, but the first one was excellent, was perfect. The second one was good. Some might call it great.
may be completely destroyed as a result. Get ready to jungle, loyal theorists.
So yeah, the first one came out, the second one came out. I'm pretty sure that the third one's going to come out soon.
We're about to gank the lore.
I got that. I understood that reference.
So I feel like we need to start with a little bit of a history lesson, because until Arcane, most of the lore of League's champions was contained to cinematic cutscenes, online bios, and voice lines. Some that became memes, okay, and some that were serious.
Every life
ends with us.
Early on, League of Legends basically had no story. Like, in the first years of its release, Riot had no writers, and each of the champions only had like a paragraph of a storyline, which some of the devs spent a couple hours cobbling together. The focus was on making a fun game, not a sprawling universe.
But as more and more characters and arenas got added, a plot started to form. Players were introduced to a world called Runeterra, where the land is rife with magic. But this magic was not always used for good. Magical wars would constantly break out across the various kingdoms like Piltover and Zaun, and eventually these all-out mage wars started to destroy Runeterra as a whole. To control the fighting and stop the end of the world, a coalition was formed where wars would no longer be necessary. Instead, disputes would be settled by the nation selecting warriors to fight in a gladiatorial arena. Mages would summon champions like Jinx, Vi, and Echo to fight in these battles in a legendary league.
What are we, some kind of League of Legends?
Hated that, moving on.
In case it wasn't clear, the players were the summoners and the fighters in the arena were the characters of the franchise. That was the whole narrative conceit of the gameplay.
Well, it was, until Riot changed it all. See, in 2014, they switched...
So I think what they start off with a good foot, they create a good game with good gameplay. They focus a lot on the game mechanics. It's like lore, we touch on that later. We focus on making the game fun. We focus on making the game mechanics good and everything. The lore part comes later. And when the game starts getting better, let's put in some backstory, some lore. And with that all together, let's improve on it.
things up. The players were no longer summoners. In fact, there weren't any summoners anymore. Instead, the entire storyline was more or less wiped clean and started from scratch, with Riot releasing various comics and short stories to expand on the backstories of their champions. But these weren't often well coordinated, and the timeline became really messy as stories intersected and conflicted with one another, or frequent retcons made things pretty unclear.
There are tons of examples of this, too many to count, but just a couple. Heroes like
Canon? Do you see it again?
Singed and Vi had pretty big changes to their backstories, while Piltover and Zaun were retconned from sister cities into the same city split into two. Character relationships were also changed. When Jace was introduced in 2012, his basic backstory was as a scientist, while Victor broke into Jace's lab to steal hex tech for his machines. Victor was already a pre-established character with complex motivations, and fans didn't love making him a villain for Jace just for the heck of it. Riot heard the pleas of the fans and altered their stories again in 2016 to one where they were more colleagues than anything else. You get the idea. It's a lot and it's confusing, and somehow that's just the beginning.
See, in League, you can change the skins of the champions, and a lot of them are grouped into themes, like the Spirit Blossom skins, the Battle Academia skins, or my favorite, the Star Guardian skins. But these aren't just the champions dressing up in different outfits. In the story of League, these are completely different versions of these characters pulled from a massive multiverse. Alternate realities that are entirely different from the world of Arcane and Runeterra. They get really weird and experimental and really fun.
Some big examples? We mentioned earlier that Riot has a K-pop group called KDA featuring many of their champions as musicians. Well, this actually encompasses an entire universe called Riot Records, with multiple groups like Pentakill, True Damage, and Heartsteel, all of which have real-world music you can listen to. You gotta love the cross-promotion. Then there's the Sailor Moon-inspired universe of Star Guardian, the high school drama of Academy, the Untamed Western of High Noon, the mythical afterlife of Spirit Blossoms, the vomit-inducing cuteness of cats versus dogs, and on and on and on.
And all of these universes are under threat from the universe-destroying force known as the Void, or similar monstrosities like the Darkstar, who want to consume the entire multiverse. They're such a big threat that they're actually kind of like the main villains of League of Legends IP, with multiple in-game events revolving around the Void.
As you can tell, it's a lot. Fans weren't even sure what was the old lore and what was the new lore, making it super hard for them to jump in and keep track of their favorite champions and become invested in any of the stories. There are entire YouTube channels dedicated to trying to explain all of this, so you can see
826,000 subscribers.
why Riot might want to simplify things. The most important lore, though? What exactly do these champions eat between their matches? Well,
I think Arcane Arcane is a good lynch point, a good anchor point. It's like there's so many different lore, so many different multiverse, and the most successful one is Arcane. So let's dig deeper into Arcane, and let it be the center focus point of it all. It kind of helps, maybe. I'm not too sure. Sorry.
They won't have to worry about that with the sponsor for today's theory, Factor. Factor's meals are fresh and never frozen. They're all also chef-crafted and dietitian approved, meaning that you're actually getting good food instead of a lot of the underwhelming stuff you typically find in these sorts of meals. They're also super easy to prepare. Just pop them in the microwave for a couple of minutes, plate it up, and bam, you've got lunch or dinner right there, ready to eat so you can hop back into your next game of League. They also have more variety than there are champions in the Rift, with a weekly menu featuring 35 options. That means there's something for everyone, including Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, and vegan and veggie variants. They also have more than 60 add-ons that you can pack into your order every week, including breakfast, snacks, and beverages. I personally like their vanilla cake keto shakes. You can grab one of these after a workout, sit back, relax, and pop Arcane onto Netflix if you're just too exhausted to make something yourself. A lot of us here at Theorist HQ have actually relied on Factor to make sure that we get a healthy, filling lunch while we're in hardcore work mode here at the office. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten out of a 5-hour meeting marathon and realized that I haven't eaten all day and been saved by throwing a Factor meal in the microwave. If you want to try Factor for yourself, head over to factor75.com or click the link in the description if you don't want to type all of that out. Then just use the code 50filmtheory to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first Factor box. Again, that's code 50filmtheory at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free shipping on that first box. Thanks again to Factor for sponsoring today's episode, and let's head back into the Rift. Enter Arcane, and it taking this complicated, fragmented universe with plot lines all over the place and telling a simple, cohesive story. If you're new to League and want to try to learn more about a single hero, gone are the worries about trying to track down which comics or website blurbs to tell you what you need to know. Gone is the temptation to dive into all of these alternate universes right off the bat, or worry about what the Void or the Darkstar means for the wider League of Legends franchise. You can just watch the show and you'll get it, enough to hop into the game and try out Jace or Vi or Jinx
or even Heimerdinger if you're feeling annoying.
Now, that's all well and good, but with Arcane coming out, one question did start popping into every League fan's mind. Sure, the show was great, but was it canon? See, despite simplifying everything, the lore of these characters that we see in the game differs greatly from what we see in the show.
An example, in Arcane, the character Victor has an illness which drives him to further technology, even at great risk to himself and others around him. He doesn't mean to hurt the people he cares about, but his life is literally on the line, and he grows increasingly desperate in his experiments.
This guy? No, that can't.
But compare that with League's Victor.
Oh, it's good intentions, bad execution.
He's an idealist devoted to improving humanity at any cost, to the point of obsession, and sees technology as a means to that end. By the time we play him in League, he's more machine than man.
Still can't fix all your flaws.
These differences also extend to relationships between characters, like Victor and Jace. Like we mentioned earlier, in the game's more recent lore, they work together to improve Piltover, but would often disagree on how to do it, to the point that they, quote, never truly became friends. Compare that to Arcane, where Jace and Victor still work together, but are also quite close.
Victor saved my life once. Now he needs me, and there's nothing I can do. He's like my brother.
That's not what you say about somebody that you, quote, never truly became friends with. And this is just one example of the differences Arcane created between its versions of the characters and League's. So which do we follow? Which versions of these characters are the true versions?
Well, Riot was quick to make a decision, ruling that Arcane is now the new canon for League of Legends, and it's gonna build off of that moving forward.
And why wouldn't they? Arcane made Imagine Dragons canon in the League universe. Yes, really.
Potentially Linkin Park too.
What a world.
Anyway, Riot pretty much laid down the law right here. When Jeremy Lee, the former executive producer of League of Legends, explained that both Arcane and League are part of the same Runeterra canon. And according to Laura DeYoung, Riot's vice president of IP development, they're doing this because
over the years, we've introduced inconsistencies that have woven their way into the storytelling and the world building of Runeterra. Going forward, we don't believe that's the right approach, because that kind of fragmentation makes the world feel less believable.
They want you to know that moving forward, if you see something related to League of Legends, it's all part of the same story.
And this isn't isn't theoretical. We're already seeing that pay off in changes for characters and lore in the series. When talking about the creation of Hextech as it related to one of their champions, Andre Van Roon, head of League Studio, said,
Skarner's old lore, and that of a few other associated champions, doesn't mesh with the creation of Hextech revealed in Arcane, which is the origin for Hextech and the unified canon going forwards.
The interpretation of Hextech as seen in Arcane is the one they consider canon, and they're changing other parts of the world to fit it. But hey, it makes sense. Apparently Hextech used to be extracted from giant scorpions?
Yeah, that was the lore, and it was awesome.
Basically, from now on, everything Riot makes in the world of Runeterra is going to have to share that consistent story started in Arcane. This show is suddenly the most important thing to the entire universe of one of the most popular games on the planet. Amazing what universal critical and audience acclaim and hundreds of millions of views can do, isn't it? Regardless, while that might not seem like a huge deal, this is going to have a huge impact outside of just some League of Legends trailers and short stories on their websites. Like just this past week, Riot revealed that their newest hero in League was Ambessa, a character that first appeared in Arcane.
Plus, Riot has recently explored various single-player and story-focused spin-off games like Ruined King, Mage Seeker, and Convergence, all of which need to fit into this narrative now. They're currently making a massively multiplayer role-playing game like World of Warcraft set in the League of Legends universe, which will need to slot in neatly too. Even weirder efforts like their new fighting game, 2XKO, will need to follow this blueprint.
By the way, 2XKO, cool looking game, not in love with that name. I definitely agree with Maximilian Dude on this one.
It could have been called Double Knockout, and to be honest, Double Knockout, abbreviating to 2KO, is a pretty good idea.
So much better. Please fix it, Riot.
What are you talking about? You don't like 2XKO? It rolls right off the tongue. Want to play some 2XKO? I would love to play some 2XKO. Yeah, no, I hate it too.
So, okay.
I love Santi is like, what do you mean? Then he purposefully doing, come on, bro.
That's an interesting history lesson and all, and it's a great example of how powerful film and television can be for these game IP. Honestly, I've wanted to do a theory about the effects of good film and TV adaptations on video game IP for like forever now, but Arcane is a textbook case of why these are so important. In the months following Arcane's release, the player count in League spiked up 40 million players. Tens of millions of people either returned to League or gave it a shot because of this show. And if our purpose here today was to prove that Arcane is an important show because of just how much it changed League of Legends as a game, like, mission accomplished. The TV universe has taken precedence over the game universe because it's an easier way to tell the story of Runeterra than a MOBA game. And Netflix gives this brand, this whole franchise that is League of Legends, a much wider reach, and an entry point that isn't an intimidating video game with hundreds of playable characters and a decade and a half of history. And so, the game is being changed to fit the TV show first and foremost, instead of the TV show just enhancing the game. And this has some pretty implicit, widespread effects for the lore.
The very fact that there's a canon now, as opposed to random lore drops from voice lines or short stories or trailers or hell, even skins, that means that there's now one storyline that is the storyline that everything else has to follow. By definition, that makes this universe created by this TV series the most important one.
Like, sure, you can have these fun, different alternate realities to sell skins of Ari dressed like a K-pop star, but that has to take a backseat now to what they're doing with Arcane. And just the very fact that Riot is prioritizing Arcane in its universe, they more or less have whittled down the relevant universes in their multiverse of IP.
Remember earlier when we talked about the Void and Darkstar? It's the main big bad in the League IP, a multi-universal threat that consumes realities to make itself stronger. That old universe, the one with the classic lore before it was updated and simplified for Arcane, the one that people spent over a decade of their life playing in and coming to love, the one that grew memes and solidified an entire genre of gaming, it's gone now. More or less, it's fallen into the void and been consumed by it.
And it's not the only one. Think about it. Whenever a skin line fails or a story of an alternate dimension just doesn't hit with the audience, sure, maybe you can go buy the skins still if they're in rotation, but the stories of those realities, they end. For all intents and purposes, they're consumed by the void or the dark star.
And isn't it interesting interesting that very recently Riot added an important new lore character as a champion, Belveth, a character that was basically the Empress of the Void. They added this character in 2022, right after Arcane released, and that was a big success. They basically went out of their way to remind players that the Void exists and that they're the main villains of the whole dang IP, right when they were rebooting their storyline and getting rid of the old lore.
Getting rid of older worlds, allowing them to get eaten by the void that is irrelevant.
All so they can focus on their new TV-led universe.
Yep, Riot's little experiment on Netflix was a huge success, no doubt, enough that it has changed League of Legends forever. Arcane may very well be the best thing that's ever happened to the League of Legends IP as a franchise, and the worst thing that's ever happened to the universes in its lore as the void threatens to consume the ones left behind.
Guess they just
What Lee mentioned is very important. It is both the best thing and the worst thing. It's a very sharp double-edged sword. It's nice, but it's also not nice. It's good, but it's also bad. It's fantastic, but it's... Well, I hope that they make the right choice. I hope that the decision made was the correct one. I hope.
need to be better.
Get good!
But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. Next time on Film Theory. Ever since the Fallout TV show came out, one question seems to be on everybody's mind. What would Lucy's level be if she were in a Fallout game? Well, we here at Film Theory did what no one else was insane enough to do. We sat down and ran the numbers. And what we found is absolutely game-breaking.
Well, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe. Thank you. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. And I hope to see you in my next video. Thank you so much. Subscribe. Thank you. Okay, my earpiece dropped, so... And cut! Literally and cut! I'm sorry. Sorry.